Good day, everybody, and welcome back to the dark side. I know it's been a while since I made some content, specifically Minecraft content, but I'm planning to come back into it. And what better way than to actually cover one of my favorite mods of all time, especially in early game, but just as much in late game, which is Roots. Now, I'm going to be dividing this video into 5 parts just for usability, so you can go to any of the parts depending on what you need. Part 1 will be just getting started. Part 2 is going to be getting the ingredients that you will need. Part 3 is going to be useful stuff that are not required to progress in the mod, but can still be very useful in other ways. Part 4 is going to be the spells specifically, and part 5 is going to be rituals that the mod adds. So for that purpose, this is part 1, being the introduction and how to get started. Everything that you will need to know. Let's get into it. Now, Roots is a very efficient mod to get started in early game. It's pretty easy to get into with a few of the more advanced magic systems inside this mod being more mid-game, depending on what kind of playthrough you're going for. But nonetheless, it's pretty useful no matter at what stage of your playthrough you're currently at for multiple reasons that we'd get to in the later parts. So the first part will be to run around and punch some grass. You'll get some very important things that you'll need a lot of later on in the mod, specifically the wild root. Now, the wild root is going to be the base for basically everything throughout. It's going to make up the pun as it might be, the root of most of your crafting recipes and most of your spells, especially the ones that you're going to get. The aubergine will also drop seeds from grass, and that is going to be used for a few of the crafting stuff, but not significantly in relation to the wild root itself. And then the last thing that will drop is the Terra spores from this mod. And that's going to be used to kind of get some moss, which we'll also cover later on. Now, the aubergines and the wild root can both be planted and grown on normal soil. I would suggest setting up a farm for these two. The aubergine is not that important. It can just be like a small little farm, whereas the wild root, I'd suggest quite a lengthy farm, like at least a 9 by 9. Then the first step to get started with the magic itself is to craft yourself the Druidic Arts book. This book is going to give you a lot of guidance in all the aspects actually of this mod, and it's as simple as crafting a book with a wild root, and this will offer you insights into basically all the magic stuff that you can get from this mod. Now, this book has not been unlocked for any of the stuff, but as you progress and get more stuff, it will start unlocking the full potential of the book. Subsequently to that, you can craft yourself a knife of any variety, being wood, stone, iron, silver, copper, gold, diamond, or amethyst, and I'm pretty sure some other mods that you can install alongside it would offer a greater variety of knives, but anything will do, the durability will just differ. Now, what will we use this for? This is where the Terra spores come in. So if we take ourselves this trusty little knife, find ourselves a little bit of mossy anything, it can be mossy cobble, mossy stone, or the likes, and you just activate it, it will drop a piece of Terra moss. Now, what you can do with the Terra spores that we got from the grass earlier is when you have a block that has a mossy variety, and it's adjacent to water, it has to be next to it, and you activate it, it will turn that block into the mossy variant, and you can just harvest the moss again. pretty efficient to kind of play this alongside a mods like I would say Thumcraft that adds like biomes that have a lot of mossy blocks that are easily acquirable. Hi friend. So once you have all of that, you're gonna want to craft your first kind of crafting table variety for this mod, being the Fey Crafter. Now, the recipe for this is very simple. It's a piece of log of any variety, 5 saplings of any variety, terra moss, and 1 wild root. Once you have that, you'll get this Fey Crafter, which you can currently see is not usable because we don't have everything we need. And that's where the Grove Stone comes in. Now, this is also just as simple to craft as you can see. Very early game, 3 stone, stone slabs, wild root, and a piece of moss will give you this. We'll get back to the utilization of this in later parts as well. For the introduction purposes, I'm just going to show you all the kind of components of the systems you'll need to craft. The next thing you'll need is a pyre. Now for this you can actually craft a few of them, but to get started you'll just need the singular pyre. For this you'll need 2 cobblestone, 3 logs of any variety in a triangle like this, with a wild root in the middle and terra moss at the bottom middle. That will give you the pyre. This is also a sort of crafting mechanism that's used in the mod, but it doesn't have like an open grid that you can use. It's more similar to the Botania mechanic where you kind of just put stuff into it and it automatically crafts it for you. The next thing you'll need is the imbuer. You'll need a piece of stone for this with 4 sticks in the corners, and that will give you the imbuer, which is going to be used to kind of put the magic dust into your wands, as will be demonstrated in a later part. Then we're going to need a mortar and pestle. The mortar is crafted with a piece of charcoal specifically, and 5 cobblestone kind of in the hopper grid. And the pestle up here is 5 pieces of stone in this formation with the square and the little tail at the end. This will be used to craft ingredients for certain spells and other stuff that you're going to be crafting later on in the mod, and it's fairly simple to get as well. And then getting to the actual magic part of this, you're going to want to craft yourself a couple of staves. You can get away with just doing one, but each staff can only have 5 spells attributed to them. So you're going to want to craft at least a few of them, depending on what kind of spells you want to use from this mod pack or from this mod, and what kind of combination you want to put on each one. Also a fairly simple recipe, 2 sticks, 2 logs of any variety, and a single wild root. And then since this is a druidic mod, it's going to be using a lot of plant-based magic systems. So you're going to have to craft yourself a little component pouch in which you can actually put your ingredients and other stuff that are related to the mod in as well. This grid over here can actually be used for any of or anything that you can think of, whereas this little pouch over here can only be used for roots ingredients, as you can see on the side here, but we'll get to that as well. This is going to be very important as only ingredients that are in these slots over here will be used, will be taken into account when casting spells. Each spell will use a certain amount of ingredient, and once it runs out in here, your spell will not work anymore. Put that back. This can also be worn as a belt slot in the baubles and accessed through a shortcut key that you can allocate. Now, something useful to note here is there are actually villages specific to the Roots mod that you can find in any village, which will kind of just facilitate what you can get from the mod. As you can see, many of the ingredients that we will be crafting later, as well as some of the tools, will be available for purchase from the Druid Villager. For instance, here we can spend 30 emeralds to get the component pouch, or you can just craft it yourself. That's up to you entirely. And that brings us to the end of the introduction.